Who Really Killed Brian Drake podcast focuses on the investigation into who killed Brian Drake, what the Idaho State Police and local law enforcement agents did to put together a criminal case against a Bonners Ferry, another chiropractor, Dan Moore. This investigation spanned about a 6-month period. Episode 1 focuses on Aaliyah Sandelin and Isaac Funderburg, two main names that you will hear consistent throughout this podcast. Aaliyah Sandelin at the time, 17. Isaac Funderburg at the time, 19. Law enforcement, when interviewing Isaac Funderburg and Aaliyah Sandelin, they never got their cell phones. They never dumped their cell phones. They never downloaded them. They never had them look at their phones to see if they had called anybody during that time frame. They never looked and said, hey, what time was that 911 call that you made? These officers, when interviewing Isaac Funderburg and Aaliyah Sandelin, they relied nothing on digital evidence to possibly jar one of their memories to really pin down that time frame. Now, is that because there would be another 911 caller? And this 911 caller would be the wife of Brian Drake. Now, before we get to that 911 call that you guys are going to hear that Jennifer Drake makes on March 12th, 2020, it is important to understand where Bonners Ferry is compared to where Hayden, Idaho is. Brian Drake was a chiropractor that had 3 locations across Idaho that he saw patients weekly. Bonners Ferry, Idaho was just one of those 3 locations. Bonners Ferry is about an hour and a half from Hayden, Idaho, where Brian Drake had his other practice and where Brian Drake lived with his wife and 4 kids. And then Brian Drake's third practice was in Sandpoint, Idaho, which was actually halfway between Bonners Ferry and Hayden. So about an hour and a half to get from Hayden to Bonners Ferry, and then in the middle of those 2 locations is Sandpoint, Idaho, where Brian had another practice. Those 3 cities making up the 3 practices: Hayden, Sandpoint, and Bonners Ferry. Well, on the night that Brian Drake was murdered, March 12th, 2020, Brian Drake, that whole day was a Thursday, Brian Drake saw his patients from the Bonners Ferry area at his Bonners Ferry office. At the conclusion of each day, when he is in Bonners Ferry, which is on Mondays and Thursdays, instead of Brian Drake packing up and heading all the way home to Hayden, Idaho, Brian Drake would spend the night in his office and then wake up the next day on Tuesday mornings and Friday mornings and then head to, and on the way back to his home in Hayden, he would stop at Sandpoint, where then he would see patients in Sandpoint and then head on home for the day on Tuesday evenings and Friday evenings. Kootenai County Dispatch would record a 911 call that came in to their dispatch at approximately 7:29 p.m. I say approximately 7:29 p.m. because Kootenai County has no records surrounding this 911 call. There are no CAD notes, there is no paper trail, there is no record that this call exists except for a recorded alleged 911 call. Now, Kootenai County is the county where Hayden, Idaho is located. Bonner County is where Sandpoint, Idaho is located. And then Bonners Ferry is located in Boundary County. That can kind of get confusing when you think of Bonners Ferry. Well, shouldn't that be in Bonner County? It's not. Bonners Ferry is located within the county limits of Boundary County. Bonner County features Sandpoint, Idaho. And then Kootenai County features Coeur d'Alene, Hayden, that area. Now, fast forwarding to 6 months down the road, when chiropractor Daniel Lee Moore would be arrested for the murder of Brian Drake, He then had a preliminary hearing set for October of 2020 after his arrest at the end of August of 2020. During that preliminary hearing, the prosecutor, Tevis Hall, was set to play one or possibly the 3 911 calls associated with the phone call made by Brian Drake's widow, Jennifer Drake. However, they would attempt to go and play a 911 call only to have it be interrupted almost immediately once it starts playing, saying that that's not the right call. Where did you ever get this call from? That 911 call was then stopped during the middle of the preliminary hearing, and it was then never played again. And in fact, the exhibit in its entirety, right before the state rested its case for the preliminary hearing, they pulled the exhibit that featured the 911 call made by Jennifer Drake. Now, during that preliminary hearing, as well as in the probable cause affidavit for the arrest of Daniel Lee Moore, the Idaho State Police Department relied on only the words and the narration of Jennifer Drake as to what time her husband was shot and what time she called 911 to establish the time of the crime. There would be no scientific or forensic evidence presented ever to date as to corroborating the time of the crime and the manner in which Brian Drake will go on to be alleged shot and killed through his office window while he was sitting at his desk, leaned over, finishing paperwork. But we'll get to all that down the road a little bit later in these episodes. Now, back to March 12th, 2020. On Brian Drake's cell phone, he had 2 of them, a work cell phone and a personal cell phone. There is some debate that he may have had a third, but again, that comes later in the story. Brian Drake's personal cell phone would have an outgoing call made to his wife at 7:17 p.m. on the night of the murder, March 12, 2020. That phone call was answered. It would consist of 9 minutes and 15 seconds to about 7:26 p.m. Now, the only 2 people that truly know what took place with that phone call would be the 2 people that were on that phone call. Jennifer Drake and allegedly Brian Drake, seeing as it was his cell phone. Jennifer Drake, when she calls 911, she tells a story that she was talking to her husband, he was winding down for the day, and at the end, towards the end of their conversation, she hears her husband yell out, "I think I've been hit. I think something just hit me. I think I was just shot through the window." And then that's it. The phone goes black. There's nothing more there. And then she hangs up. She was at her home in Hayden when she got the 7:17 phone call. She hangs up, and then she uses that same phone, her cell phone, to then call 911. Take a listen here to the first 911 call, as this 911 call would be routed to the Kootenai County Dispatch. From there, Kootenai County Dispatch said that they had to transfer it to Bonner County Dispatch in the Sandpoint area, and then Bonner County then transferred it again to Boundary County. All in all, leaving Jennifer Drake on the phone one entire time, but that she was just patched through to the different areas because of the location where she said her husband was shot.
911, what is the address of the emergency? Oh my goodness, somebody please. Call to my husband, he's in Bonner's Ferry. He was on the phone with me, and he just all of a sudden yelled out and said he thought he got shot, and then all of a sudden the phone went dead. Okay, ma'am, I had a hard time understanding you, so can you take a deep breath and slow down for me? Because I couldn't understand what you said. Okay. I need somebody to get up to this address. is the address of your emergency? Oh, please go to 6811 South Main Street. Okay, 60. Okay, I understand. And now I couldn't understand what you said. Can you say the address again? 6811 South Main Street, Suite D. It's at Drake Chiropractic of North Idaho. Okay, and what city is that in? It's in Bonus Ferry, Idaho. Okay. Okay, you've reached Bonner County, so I've got to get you over to, okay, so bear with me for just 1 second. What's going on there? I was on the phone with him, and he was... And then all of a sudden he yelled and said, "Ow!" He goes, "Oh my gosh, I think I was just shot. Somebody just shot through the window into my side." And then all of a sudden he dropped the phone and he wouldn't answer. Okay. He wouldn't answer. Hold on for me just a second, okay? Hold on. Is he conscious? I think he may not be. If he was conscious, he would have called me back. Are you able to do CPR on him? I'm not there. I'm in Houston. This is the ambulance up there. I'm 2 hours away. This is Bonner County with a transfer for a possible gunshot at 6811 South Main Street, Suite D at a chiropractor's office in Bonner's Ferry. Yes. Okay. And the caller is calling from 512-626-3618. Yes. She states that there was she spoke to a man who thinks that he just got shot, and then... I was on the phone with my husband. And then he stopped talking to her. Okay. Go ahead, caller. He just was on the phone talking. He just got done working. That's my husband. And all of a sudden he yelled, and he yelled, "Ow, ow." And I said, "What's wrong?" He goes, "Something just hit me, something horrible. I feel like a gunshot just hit my side." And then all of a sudden, it went blank. And I kept yelling and trying to yell at him. I'm telling you, if he was conscious, he would have called me back. Okay, yeah. What's your address, sir? He is at 6811 South Main Street, Suite D, at Drake Chiropractic of North Idaho. Okay, and what's his name? His name is Brian Drake. Going this way. Okay, and what's your name? What is your name, ma'am? Jennifer. Jennifer? Okay, Jennifer. I am going to send people out there right now to check on him, okay? What? I'm going to send people out there right now, okay? Thank you. Do you guys call me back? Of course. Is this a good phone number to reach you at the 512-626-3618? Yes. Yes, please call me as soon as possible. Okay, I will, Jennifer. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye. Okay, bye-bye.
I'll get into all of the weirdness surrounding the 911 call. That's going to come later on. But something that needs to be said now is that 911 call would never register in Jennifer Drake's cell phone, that she ever made that call from her cell phone. Something else that is interesting is that this would never be contested by the Idaho State Police. There was no question surrounding why Jennifer Drake's cell phone did not feature this call. Where did it go? How is it not on her outgoing lists? And through my investigation, Jennifer Drake made a 7 32, and 40-second phone call to Brian Drake's cell phone on the night of the murder. That would be at the same time that she was on the phone with 911. How is that possible? To this day, there is no answer as to why Jennifer Drake's cell phone does not have an outgoing call to the police. And there's been no questions on, did Jennifer Drake use a different cell phone to in fact call 911 that night? And if that is true, then the phone that would be sitting at home in Hayden, pinging on cell towers there, was she even with that phone? Was she able to forward calls to a different cell phone? This is where having a cell phone expert to tell you what is even possible, probable, and what the data shows is very important in situations like this. It should be noted that the Idaho State Police never once consulted with anybody from digital forensics standpoint of anybody's phone in this case. Also now, I find myself asking myself, was Brian Drake truly on the other end of that phone call? Also, was Jennifer Drake truly on the other side of that phone call? Brian Drake being on and alive during that phone call would mean that Brian Drake was alive until 7:26 p.m. So the next stop is to go track and see who was Brian Drake's last chiropractor patients. And those patients would be allegedly Eldora Gatchel and her brother, Caleb Kakoa Nazara. Now, if you watched episode 1, you would have seen a Hawaiian man playing a ukulele in what you would see as a doctor's office. That was actually from the night of the murder. That is Eldora Gatchel behind the recording, and you cannot see her, recording her brother, Caleb Kakoa Nazara, playing the ukulele in Dr. Drake's office the night of the murder, and then the doctor that you see coming out and behind that patient door was none other than Brian Drake the night of the murder. Just minutes, half hour before his murder. Now, before we get to Eldora Gatchel and Caleb Kakoa Nazara and their statements that would come from an interview on March 19th, 2020, roughly almost close to being a week later, we're going to talk about the construction-looking guy that was from episode 1. That construction-looking guy that was staying and living at the hotel in Bonners Ferry, the Kootenai River Inn, that would be Steve Hartman. Steve Hartman, every night, would go on a walk roughly 45 minutes to an hour. He is the gentleman that ends up seeing and talking with Isaac Funderburg on the same side of the road, not across the street, but on the same side of the road. He is the same person that Aaliyah Sandlin says in her interview, oh, well, this guy comes up like 30 minutes later and he has like nothing to do with it. He just comes walking by. I think he had like earphones on or something. And we asked him if he had, he had heard shots. It would be Aaliyah's statements with Idaho State Police that truly question the timing and the time frame of the gunshots, because the surveillance cameras in the area, most notably the Liberty cameras, would find and see Steve Hartman walking towards Drake's office at 6:45, coming from the casino. Then he would be back on the cameras at 7:34 p.m. This means that before he would be seen at 7:34 p.m., he would have just encountered, just a couple minutes before, Isaac Funderburg and Aaliyah Sandlin. And it would be Aaliyah Sandlin's words that, when the detectives asked, well, how long had passed when the guy comes up that was walking with the headphones. And she said, oh yeah, we don't think he has anything to do with it. I mean, he came up and it was like 30 minutes later. That would put the gunshot that she heard, one of them, before and around 7 p.m. Before the 7:17 to 7:26 p.m. phone call that allegedly was between Brian Drake and his wife, Jennifer Drake, according to Jennifer Drake. Brian was on the other end of that call. All right, let's look at Eldora Gatchel and Caleb Kakoa-Nazara and what they told Idaho State Police and see if we can get this timeline down of when they would have arrived at Brian Drake's office for the appointment and when they would have left Brian Drake's office from their appointment. Take a listen.
Naples. Ms. Eldora, if you wouldn't mind, just kind of give us a brief explanation of your knowledge of the incident on March 12th.
I guess I'll just start with setting up the appointment.
Yes, ma'am.
I sent a text message the day prior, so Wednesday. That's always how we set up appointments. So, do you have any openings? He was pretty booked, so we didn't expect to get in. So I just told him, well, Monday would be fine, but it'd be good if we could come in if that works. So, went to the airport to pick up my niece. Took our time on the way back. Kind of later in the day, mid-afternoon, maybe 3 or so, I got a text message back saying, how's about 6 o'clock? End of the day, he's going to squeeze us in anyway. So I said, okay, sure, we'll take it. So we came back. Of course, Sonia wasn't feeling well, so she stayed home. And Kekoa and I went to the appointment. We got there at 6:03, and we noticed that because I made a comment in the car. 6:03, Doc, we're almost there. So we pull up, and there's pretty much no cars there, except for a large light color. I want to say it was a white pickup truck, but a heavy-duty work pickup truck, and I'm pretty sure it was a Ford pickup truck. Parked to the right. The doctor's car was parked right next to the building. I parked right next to him. Empty spot, pickup truck. So we go in to our appointment. He had another patient in there, so we sat in the waiting room. He played a little bit of music while we waited. And I guess we waited about 10 minutes or so. And then, so the patient came out. Big burly guy. I'd never noticed him before. I've had appointments at that time, in the past. A lot of times I know the clients that are there, so this guy was different. So I said hi to him. He didn't really respond, so he just walked out. And so I had gotten my camera out because he was going to play a song for Brian when he came out. Because anyway, I had plans to come back because I had gone to another clinic, and we were going to discuss some things about my care. So anyway, so he was playing some music. I had the videotape going, or the video camera going. And so he played a song. We went in, had our appointment. I was first. I did notice that the window shade was wide open, which to me was unusual. He usually always kind of closes the window shade, especially when it's dark. So I thought that was kind of odd. But I didn't say anything, So I figured just the three of us in there, no big deal. So I had my appointment, and just before he had his appointment, the phone rang, and it was his wife. So he was sitting at his desk, which is, if this is his desk, the window's right behind him.
Right.
So He talked a little bit with his wife, and then got started on Kikoa. So, am I missing anything right there? I think so. We had our appointment. Okay, and then that was it. So we left after 7:15. Got in the car. Didn't notice any vehicles at that point because it was just dark out. I backed up my car because I was parked forward like this. So I backed up my car, and I could take a straight shot and just drive between the doctor's office and the coffee shop. And I halfway thought of it, except there was a big pickup truck stopped right there. And I knew the truck was on because the running lights were on, but the brake lights weren't on, so it's not like somebody was stopped with their foot on the brake. Anyway, I noticed the truck right there, and I thought, well, even if I try to go that way, I can't get around them to go around the building. So I just turned left and went between the Far North Outfitters building and the t-shirt shop, that other way through the parking lot, and just went out that way. And then so we, let's see, I'm just trying to remember. We left. Yeah, we stopped at the grocery store. She needed something at the store, so we were texting. So we know that we were at the grocery store at 7:28. So, because we have text messages, what do you need? That kind of thing. So it wasn't until the next day in the evening I got a call about 7:30 or so. Maybe a little later. I could look at my notes. A friend of mine, Mary Vogelweed, called me, and she said, have you heard about this incident in town? And I said, no. She said, someone got shot. And I said, no, because I had been gone all day to the airport, to Coeur d'Alene. And she said, well, I don't, want to alarm you or anything, but word's been getting around that it might be Dr. Drake. And I was shocked. And I said, when was this? And she said, well, I think it was about 7:30 that Thursday night. Of course, that hit me hard because we were just there.
Yes, sir.
We had just left. So the reason she called me is because she thought I might be able to find out if that was true, if it was him.
Because why did she ask you?
Because she thought I could get a hold of somebody.
Yeah.
She understood that, we got to be pretty good friends. Brian Drake.
You and
Yeah.
Dr. Drake?
Yeah, Dr.
Yes, ma'am.
Drake. I had
Got it.
started seeing him early on when he first came up here.
Understood.
So, and I go watch the kids at plays and things like that. So we kind of knew each other pretty well, him and the family. So she asked me, she thought I could find out from maybe the wife or something. So I started calling. I called his cell phone numbers. Of course, no answer. So I sent text messages. Maybe they can't talk. So I sent text messages. I got a disturbing call. I just need to know if you're okay, or, what's going on. And no answer. I called his wife, Jennifer. No answer there. And it wasn't until a little bit later then I decided to text her. I don't know why I hadn't texted her right away, but I thought, I should just text her too. So I texted her. And then about 10 minutes or so after I texted her, she called me. And so I picked up the phone and I said, Jennifer, I just got this call. I need to find out. Is this really what happened? Is Brian okay? And she said to me, sadly, Eldora, it's true. And I lost it. So we just kind of had an exchange on the phone. She kind of described what had happened because she said she was on the phone with him when it happened. And she said I was talking to him on the phone and he did this, oh, I think someone shot me. And then the phone dropped and he fell. And that's what she described to me on the phone. And of course I was just shocked. Anyway, so that was essentially the exchange on the phone. It took me to some time to collect myself so that I could call my lady friend back and tell her. I said, I guess it's true, but I don't want to talk about it.
Right.
So I just hung up. And I don't recall when I called them. I guess I called the station or the sheriff's department the next morning, close to noon or
Right.
so. And then Bobby Gold came over, and which that was nice for him to come over, and so we talked about that a little bit, just describing about what happened. Let me think. That's all I can think of right now.
Well, let me ask some questions just to kind
Sure.
of help you out
Sure.
and not put you on the spot. The second pickup truck when you were leaving, you said there was another pickup truck that was blocking your path. Can you describe that pickup truck a little better?
I thought it was the same truck.
Okay.
But by the time we're done with the appointment, it was dark out. So but just I guess my backing up and my headlights shining, I just figured it was the same truck because
Okay.
it was the same heavy duty looking truck. I
Right.
can't say that it was the same truck, but it was like a F-350 work truck, light
Right.
colored. That's what it looked like to me. I just looked at it, I thought, oh, that's weird. That guy's just sitting there. Oh, I guess I'll go this way.
So, when you saw the truck, did you see a passenger in it? Anybody out inside
I couldn't, it was too dark.
Okay.
I couldn't see, but I knew the truck was on.
Right.
So I figured someone was just sitting there.
And I apologize, I don't have a picture of
know.
Oh, that's
overhead
okay.
of the.
I can
pull it out.
describe it to you though.
Was it on the roadway in the alleyway, or like?
Okay. So if this is,
Here, we'll do you one better here.
okay.
Let's use our magic pen and paper here to actually do something constructive here. So for the tape, I'm just drawing a square to represent the building and another square to represent far north, and a perpendicular set of lines that
this is the
represent US
highway.
95,
Okay.
right?
Yes.
And so you know where that blue door is?
Yes.
Right there?
That's where the
Near
truck was.
What would that be, the south? So it was basically
truck.
parked.
It was stopped right there. Yeah.
Okay.
Not, just, before the sidewalk or right by the sidewalk. It was at the end of this building, just beyond his window, but right in front
Right.
of that blue door.
And from your recollection, this body style matched the initial pickup
yeah,
style.
Did
you see anybody get into that pickup truck?
I did not, there was just that pickup truck there when we parked and the doctor's
Yeah.
car.
And that was the only gentleman.
And the only client that was there, I just assumed it was his
Right.
truck, but I did not actually see him drive off in that truck. Of course, there's no windows in there to see
Right.
out there unless you're actually looking out the door
Do you remember a color?
of the truck.
Yes.
White.
White. Did you mention that? I wrote that down.
White, or I could say light, but I was pretty sure it was white.
Okay. Notice any kind of Washington plate, Montana plate? Any?
And they say
The
be
cops will
observant.
always ask that.
Pay attention to those things, I mean, I looked at the truck, heavy duty extended mirrors,
Right.
lights, but I didn't even look at the plates.
Right. Any other kind of distinguishing, like, you know, the ridiculous oversized mufflers, the muffler stacks?
No, I
Okay.
did not notice that at all, no.
You
It
said
just,
the lights on the mirrors? Did you say-
yeah. Well, because when he stopped at the end of the building, the lights were on. So, like I could see the lights, and then, but I couldn't see brake lights.
Okay. So, if I'm understanding you correctly, you're saying just the running lights or
Yeah.
lights on the side view mirrors as well?
Yeah, because I
Okay.
could see the whole around the truck.
Gotcha.
Can I interject something right here?
Yes, sir.
This is Keikoa talking. I have a vision disability, but I can confirm that the truck was white because when we parked,
Right.
I like trucks and I noticed it was a
Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I noticed
Normal
it
man.
was
Good job.
you know.
So your vision disability isn't color blindness
It depends on the
on
Light.
the context.
Yeah,
Okay.
depends on the light. Yeah, sometimes I catch the wrong color, but
Okay.
I knew
It was light
enough
in-
light to know that it was white.
Okay.
I noticed that the bottom half under the door where they have a trim,
Okay.
it was kind of like a tan.
Okay. So kind of like a two-tone.
Yeah,
Truck?
kind of,
Yeah. Of course, he was on the passenger side, so
Yeah.
looking right at that truck. So
Right.
I didn't pay attention to that part of it. I just,
Did you have any racks or?
No, I didn't notice any racks. I did, most guys you kind of look and you go, it's a Ford.
Right.
Even if you don't see the,
yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
The body shop.
I
Yeah.
kind of was like, that's a Ford.
That's Ford.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's just no other cars.
Right.
Yeah.
So let's go back to when you're entering and gentleman is leaving who you've never interacted with. Can you describe a little bit more about what he looked like, his size?
Yeah, he was a big guy. I would say he's at least 6 feet tall.
Not taller, I think.
No, yeah, I mean, tall, probably taller. He was wearing kind of a bluish gray t-shirt, baggy t-shirt, very large because he had a huge gut, but he was a big guy. Like I said, I'd never seen him before, but people come out of the office when I'm waiting. I say hi.
Right.
I say hi to people.
Yes, ma'am.
Hi. And then he just kind of glanced at him because he was sitting off against the wall close to the office, and I was sitting against the far wall toward the parking because I was going to videotape him singing the song for Brian. And so he walks out, glances, and then I say hi, and he just looks at me and then turns, opens the door. And just before he shuts the door, I start the video so you can hear the door go clink.
Right.
But he's just a really big guy, a Caucasian guy. The t-shirt, it looked like kind of a Carhartt t-shirt. Jeans.
Jeans. I would say my granddaughter has another half that's about the same size. So I would say about 6'5", 6'6".
Okay.
Pretty close to 425, 450 pounds, maybe.
That's
Whew.
a large man.
I
Yeah,
didn't
he
think
grew
I
up.
didn't think he was that big, but but he was a big.
It could
He
be
was,
my eyes, but he was big.
but
Big
he
man.
was a big. He was
Yeah,
a
he
big
was
man.
guy.
So just a little bigger than me. Sorry. For the tape, that was humor. I apologize. Nowhere near 425.
He did have a short cut.
Okay.
What color hair?
Man, he didn't have much hair.
Yeah,
If
he
you
didn't have much
had
hair. Based on my eyes, I would say a dark.
Like a dark brown
yeah.
or something like that. If
If I'm
but
seeing
but
correctly.
I noticed he wasn't quite clean shaven. Kind of grizzly, like
Any,
maybe salt pepper kind of thing.
So some scruffy.
Yeah,
growth.
scruffy
Okay.
look. But yeah, just kind of straight faced, and you wouldn't think of him as a friendly person.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Any other distinction features like a teardrop tattoo, a neck
No,
tat, face, hands?
I don't think I noticed any tattoos. I can't say. I don't think I noticed anything else. Like if he was wearing a watch or anything like that. I can't say for sure. But he had. Oh man.
Look familiar?
No, I'm sorry. I just thought it was another picture.
No, ma'am.
I thought his hair was shorter, but that could have been. Ooh.
For the record, it's a DQ photo of Mr. Paul Allen Jacobson.
To be honest with you, I couldn't see him well enough to see any scruff. I thought he was just chubby.
Right.
To my eyes, his hair was a little darker than that.
But then that room is not
Yeah.
lit very well
Right.
in there.
Yeah, and of course, based on my eyes,
But
And again, this
I
is
mean-
this isn't like this picture was taken last week either. This is
Right.
a on file
a while.
photo from like it'd be your driver's license photo,
Yeah.
essentially. So
Yeah.
looking more for this is what won't change the eyes and the
Eyes and
nose.
the
and
wow,
the-
Yeah,
there you go.
man,
The size.
yeah.
But your biologicals were pretty close. The mid sixes and 350. So
Oh wow, that was a good job on that. I just remember he is a big guy.
When
Well, the first thing popped in my head was my son-in-law.
Yeah.
He looks just like him.
Right, right.
You know, so
Just huge. He was huge.
I mean, when he opened the door and closed the door, like how did he fit out of that door? He was
Right.
he was a pretty big guy.
right.
one the other
I was trying to imagine him being on the table. I'm going, God, how does that
Right.
table handle somebody that big?
So, this is Sonia. Just as we were having conversations, what was it you were mentioning earlier about? Well, because he was initially the guy that you guys saw was supposed to be the last person
Right.
in there, so there wasn't a plan to have anybody else after. So I said, well, maybe the guy was looking at you guys like, oh, what are you guys doing in here or something.
Right.
That and then the other
Because-
observation that I was asking her about was I said, did you hear them talking in there? Were they having any conversation? And he said he could hear just a little bit.
You can hear the table.
I heard conversation. I heard them talking. I heard the table moving as he's adjusting. You know, but like a doctor would with a patient, it's just normal talk. There's a little bit of music going on, you know,
Right.
but because I was sitting right next to the door, I could
Okay.
hear that.
So no agitation between Dr. Drake and the last gentleman or any other thing that
No, but when that guy walked out, that guy opened the door and walked out, and Dr. Drake just sat at his table, which was different. He's like, he sees the patient off, okay, well, have a good day, kind of a thing. So it was very different. This guy just walked out and he went and sat down.
Okay.
And, does his notes after each patient like he always does. And then, which is when he started playing the music. So, but yeah, that was different too.
Right. But no obvious signs of
No,
hostility or
no, just that the
aggression
guy
between the
just
two?
had no reaction to a friendly hello.
Right. And do you have the video? that-
I do.
Okay.
Yeah.
If I can get that sent to my work phone. So and is it Keikoa? Is that the
Keikoa.
full name or is that
No, my full name is Caleb Kiko Nazara.
Hi, my oldest son's middle name is Caleb.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
All
'Cause,
right. Must be a good boy.
It's not stretchy there.
It's not
He's got a lot of me in him, so
Right.
there's some craziness. So are there any gaps in this you want to fill in or any other observations from your perspective in terms of your arrival and what you kind of saw?
No, I noticed the same thing with the truck. I didn't think anything. I noticed the guy wasn't friendly when he walked out, but I'm not really, maybe he's having a bad day or whatever.
Right.
Just kind of let him go. That's basically it.
Okay.
Yeah. But everything she said is, I did notice that the shades,
Oh.
the way it was, you could see in.
Easy.
You know,
Okay.
You could see in the shades.
That was
Yeah.
Now, when you were
uncomfortable.
backing out, did you happen to observe that as well, or did you just see the
No,
truck?
Yeah, I didn't see the truck like she said waiting because I wasn't.
Right.
You know, that's a little bit far from me at that time. And
Okay.
So I didn't even notice anything.
Okay.
Um,
And we can do that after the interview. I'll get it from you after the
Oh,
interview. So
oh,
I'll
okay.
just,
I thought,
I
I
just
wouldn't
need to
mind
know.
Okay,
taking
that's
a look
fine.
at it just to see if by chance there's something. Is it very long or just?
it's a minute and 40 seconds.
No, it's not
Do you
very
want me to
long.
play it?
Sure.
Okay.
Let's see if we can see if Dr. Driggs.
You don't have to play the audio.
Yeah, it's into the exam room.
Yeah, right. So the guy walked out, left the door like that, and he just went and sat at his table. So I just asked him to go up the music now. You can play it for him because he'll hear it in there. So,
Lovely singing voice.
Yeah, if you're able to forward that to Richard's phone, it's probably going to take a while. I can't imagine there's very good
this is
sound.
coming from a different number. This is it.
Do you have an Apple?
I do. Can I just
You airdrop it,
to
right?
you?
Can we do some magic like that?
Yeah, that would be better.
And again, we'll do it after
Oh,
we
okay,
finish the
yeah.
interview. We don't need to take up time doing that. So his demeanor as he comes out and listens, and then you deal with him. Did it strike you different than it normally is with Dr. Drake? His demeanor?
Dr. Drake's demeanor?
Yes. You had mentioned that he didn't come and see off the patient during your
Oh, when
time with him. Did you just, did you feel that Dr. Drake's demeanor was
different when we were in there with him? I'm sorry.
Then in the normal, like in all the other times you've dealt with him, was his demeanor different on this night?
No, I think.
And it doesn't have to be that. I just didn't know if you
No,
noticed like
I
he was
just-
overly sad or agitated or nervous, anxious. And Keiko, if you have any observation on that as well.
That's the first time he met.
Okay.
That's the first time I met him. To me, he didn't seem like he was. Only other than the other thing was just that when they first started talking, I guess apparently before she left to her other treatment, he had had surgery, and then right after she left, he broke his ankle.
Right.
So he was a little bit like, I don't know, I broke my ankle, but other than no.
Oh yeah,
he seemed-
I guess that part of the conversation, I was just shocked. You can hear my reaction in there when I saw him come out with that leg brace. It was, what happened? Because I was gone for a month.
Gotcha.
So I was like, oh, now what? See,
Right.
the last time, he had that spinal stenosis, so he had surgery. And then, when I had my last appointment prior, a month and a half ago, I had told him that I was going to this clinic in Mexico and that I would be gone for a while, and then, I'll bring notes back and then we can kind of figure things out, that kind of thing. So, where was I going with that?
That he broke his. he
Oh,
ended up falling
okay,
down the
so
following
that's
day.
right. So I was asking him, well, what happened and when did this happen? He said, it happened the day after I saw you last, the very next day.
Right.
He said he described how he fell down, and I thought, man, that is really weird,
Oh,
Right.
because it happened,
I don't know if this helps any, but when I heard about his leg, I thought, I should pray for him. So I went and prayed for him, and when I was done, I looked at his face and I noticed that there was like, when you go into something, you kind of stressed, and the tears come, you feel good, so that kind of, I noticed that was like a relief for him.
Okay.
and he did express to me after we were getting ready to go, he did say to me, he goes, I really appreciate that prayer, that meant a lot to me, he said. So perhaps something was going on, I don't know.
Right.
But, trying not to take too much of his time. It's the end of the day. He squeezed us in after his last patient, and
Right.
so
So obviously you have known Dr. Drake for about how long? How many years?
since 2014.
Okay, so quite a while, 5 years or so. Have you lived here this whole time? Are you pretty familiar with the people in
Yeah,
Bonners Ferry?
I am.
And
I know a lot of his patients.
okay. Is there anything about his lifestyle or anything he's done that would warrant the kind of reaction for someone to want to murder him?
Oh, God, no.
Drug use, infidelity,
No. No.
extortion.
Extortion. Man, I cannot imagine that. To me, he seems more like a person that's kind of just a really good, pure heart. In some ways, too trusting, maybe,
Right.
but very nice. That doesn't. I don't feel that.
Okay. Are you aware of any of the other people that share the building with Dr. Drake?
I don't, but the gal that called me mentioned something about the office next door, that somebody might have been pissed about that guy.
Right.
I don't know anything about that.
Okay.
But she seemed to. She mentioned something about somebody there that
Right.
along those lines.
Right.
So
Anything else in terms of somebody you think we should talk to? Any other strand of evidence you think we should be looking at? Obviously, we're going to try to figure out which vehicle was there. We'll look at some cameras, see if we can narrow down anything that was in that area. And, we're going to be talking to the patient list completely.
yeah.
But anybody else, any kind of hostile interaction you've seen or heard about with him, with
No,
anybody?
not
or
with him. Gosh, everybody just loves him.
Right.
I remember the first day I met him, there were probably 3 or 4 Mennonite men. one of them, I think, owns the Sharon store, Norv. They were all in there just talking, and you could tell they were all getting along really well, and they really liked this guy. And I mean, word got around pretty
Right.
quickly about him. Not anything weird or odd, but he would talk about how when he decided to open a clinic up here, that he thought it was really quite amazing because Bonners Ferry was a town that just welcomed him so well.
Right.
And he said he has the other 2 practices, right? One in Sandpoint and one in Hayden. And he said of the 3 places, this place was so easy for him. He said, I didn't even really have to try. The people were so good. Things just kind of flowed. So he really loved having this office up here.
Right.
So no indication of anything odd with people.
It's okay to cry, man. It's okay.
Yeah.
Because I heard it too.
So
It's just kind of
When
an
I-
odd thing, so she's just going to share a conversation.
So when I got the call from Jennifer, I guess I was kind of puzzled by that conversation because I was so distraught by the call. And she seemed to be comforting me.
Right.
And I guess I didn't, when I was asking her, is this true? She said, you know, sadly, yes, it's true. And I thought, man, if I were you, I would just be like me.
Wouldn't even be able to get on the phone.
I just,
The reason I told
just-
her to, because I could hear her on
She
the
could-
phone. I was sitting right next to her when she was on the phone, so I could hear.
so if you're
Right.
asking me
Right.
what I think is odd, I thought that was odd. I hate to say that, but I just thought that was odd.
Have you had much interaction with Miss Drake?
A few times.
Okay.
Not a whole lot. Like I said, I've gone to the kids' plays, you know, down in Coeur d'Alene. I went to another one out in Spokane. They've come up to the Mennonite sale. So, you know, I kind of got to know the kids then, you know. I had them over one day when they came and visited me for a little bit. So we got to, you know, getting to know each other then. I sat his old dog, an old lab, for, I don't know, 5 days or so while they went on vacation. But yeah, I was always invited to go down and have dinner, but I never did go, you know. I just never did go.
Right.
But yeah, the kids are really precious, and I love kids.
Is there anything odd about it besides just the way she said it? Was it the tone it was delivered, the lack of empathy, the lack of...
I guess yes. Well, I don't know. How do you say she, you know,
Well, her
wasn't?
tone, just in my observation, this is Sonia. When I was hearing it, you know, and I was comforting her because she was crying, and she was like, "Oh, it's her," and so she picked up, and I was telling her, I said, you know, you might want to just text her, because I said, because I've lost my parents and everything, and I said the last thing I want to do is get on the phone and talk to someone after your loved one dies,
Right.
because you just can't even get words out to try to talk about the incident.
Right.
So she was like, oh, she's calling. And so I was comforting her, sitting next to her, and I could hear her talking, and what she had said was what I heard, how it just kind of came across that way. And I was like, I don't know anybody, so I'm like, well, that's kind of interesting, you know, and just like, wow, you know, she's pretty much holding it together. Like, I would have been not being able to say much, and she was just, you know, relaying her sympathy, and if you need anything, you know, anything at all with the kids, anything, you know, just please let me know, and I can't believe I'm so sorry. And she's like, yeah, you know, yeah.
But it's okay.
it's
He
gonna
loved
be- it's
you a
okay.
lot,
He loved
and-
you a lot. And I was just, I've never met any of them, so I'm just thinking, this seems a little odd to me, but I didn't say anything, and
Right.
you know, and until a day passed, and we were all kind of, and I didn't want to imply anything, and I'm like, yeah, I don't know, I just
she's
thought
a
that was
pretty
little
strong.
odd.
This is Eldora. She's a strong person. She's a pretty tough person. She's
Right.
very smart, very organized, very just bright woman. Good
Yeah.
mom.
This is Keikoa talking again. I could hear the conversation too from where I was sitting.
Right.
She was very collected, but for me, my wife was that way,
Yeah.
and so there's a part of me where it's not kind of odd if they got the kids and they got to be strong for the kids. You know,
Yeah.
you hold yourself. My wife was that way, so but it did sound
Yeah.
a little bit strange. you
I didn't
know.
want to
I mean,
make any
it's-
assumptions since I didn't know
Yeah.
anyone, but I just thought for me,
Right.
But,
Okay.
you know, she did say she was on the phone with him when it happened. See, she had called when we were there. We weren't supposed to be there. So she had called, and so he was talking to her on the phone at his desk, because his two phones sit on the desk. One's the work and one's the personal number, I guess, which is the number she calls on, I'm guessing. And so I did say to her, I said, I can't believe it. And I said, I just saw him. I just left the office. I was right there. And she said, that was you at the office? I said, yes, because she was on the phone. So she heard us chatting while she was talking to Brian. But when I talked to her, she said that, you know, his reaction and then the phone dropping, she described it to me. So then I thought, well, then they called each other after we left. So she was on the phone again the second time. And anyway, she just described that to me.
but no sound of gunshot or
Yeah,
anything.
she didn't say she heard a gunshot or anything. She just said, oh, well, I was talking to him, and he just went, oh, I think someone shot me. And then dropped the phone, and he fell. And so she called 911 right away.
Right.
So, that felt horrible to tell her.
Oh, we're looking for all details, and again, part of eyewitness is your perception. You know, it's it is what it is.
Does Jennifer know that there's a video?
No. I did not talk about anything.
She wanted to talk
Okay.
I just
whoever
I'm-
first before she.
don't.
Give
That's
me.
why I didn't even want to talk to my lady friends that were calling. I just
Right.
no. She doesn't know.
Okay. Anything else before we stop the tape that you could think of?
Can I say something?
Dan.
David, Eldora's husband.
Okay.
I wasn't there. But when they described the previous client, this just kind of speaks to the demeanor of the previous client. When they described him, I was thinking of the man in the photo I'm aware of, though not acquainted with. You guys remember I said, did he have a beard?
Yeah, I remember that.
Does he have kind of lighter hair? Because their description, I don't really know that guy, but I think that's the guy that I see. I'm a logger, and I see him at the fuel pumps all the time, and he always is unfriendly guy. I'm just saying, that's if it's that guy, that's not an abnormal way for him. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's. I don't know him. It's somebody I don't know. I just see him at the pumps when I go fuel up
Okay.
my truck.
Do you know who he works for, sir?
No.
But he is a logger.
Yeah.
Which fuel pumps?
Dick's.
Okay.
Well, if there's nothing you think of, I'll just remind you. And unfortunately, I have run out of cards.
Yeah.
Detective Lehman will give you her card. If something comes to mind, no matter how small you think it is or odd, you know, every little piece of the puzzle helps put it together. And so we're always appreciative. We thank you for your willingness to come and talk to us. And with that, we will stop tape by my watch. It is 21:15.
Next time on Who Really Killed Brian Drake podcast, I'll be breaking down Eldora Gatchell's interview with police, pointing out some very interesting statements, But in a nutshell, Eldora Gatchel would be interviewed on March 16th, 2020, the same day that Jennifer Drake was interviewed. But in Jennifer Drake's interview, she's under the impression and tells the Idaho State police detectives that Eldora Gatchel had already been interviewed and that she had already talked to authorities, and she thought it was like a day or two previous of March 16th, 2020. Also next time, the interview with Paul Jacobson, the gentleman that Eldora Gatchel got a funny feeling about. And then my personal interview with Paul Jacobson 4 years later. Again, next on Who Really Killed Brian Drake podcast.